Hello, my name is Michaela Arce, and I'm on the Social and Digital Innovation team. I'm here to walk through a tutorial of Sprinklr, which is the social media management system we use here at Mayo Clinic. There are many benefits to Sprinklr, such as better security or tighter password controls, having an audit record of the interactions, who said what when, and great gains for efficiency and collaboration across teams. Of note, I'll be walking through the Sprinklr tutorial on the desktop version today, and it's recommended you use Chrome, but there is also a mobile app for both Android and iOS. First of all, when you log into the platform, there are various sections that you can go to. I will primarily be talking about engagement, planner, reporting, and then the publisher, which I'll show you how to get to shortly. We'll start with the planner. If you want to get back to that same menu I just showed you, you can do so by going to the 9 dots in the upper left and clicking that. Before we get started, I'll just point out that up in the left-hand corner, most of you will be in Workspace Client Environment non-MCSMN. That's where the non-enterprise accounts, or the majority of those, reside. So most of you are probably working on the non-enterprise-wide accounts, meaning not the overarching Mayo Clinic on Facebook or Mayo Clinic on Twitter. There are some of you who occasionally may need to switch back and forth because you help out sometimes on the main accounts for one purpose or another, but that's few and far between. So most of you will just use the non-MCSMN workspace. Here's the planner view. Walking through this, you can see towards the upper right where you can narrow down to look only at a month view, a week view, a day view, etc. Then here you can change to look at a collapsed view or an expanded view of the content. Moving a little further, if you want to filter to only look at a certain channel or a certain account, you can do so. For example, I'll select to only look at Facebook content right now. And if I don't want to have to select this each time I want to filter, I can save it as a board here. So if I click Save as Board, I can call this Facebook example, save, and then in the future when I log in, I can go to these 3 horizontal lines in the upper left and go down to my board's Facebook example. You can see now that I have one filter set, it shows a 1 on the filter. So if you ever don't see content that you think you should see, you might want to check to see if something's filtered. Moving along, looking at the options in the upper right is an I. If I select that, I can select or deselect the time axis. Right now it is selected, so you can see the time axis along the left-hand side. If it were deselected, this disappears and the content falls to the top of the calendar. For now, I'll leave it selected. If we click ahead and look at the next week, we can see the difference between content that has already gone out. If I hover over the green dot, it shows that it is sent, whereas if I hover over the gold dot, it shows that it is scheduled. Then if I hover over the 3-dot action menu, you can see that I have more options to select for scheduled content, such as to edit it or reschedule it, whereas the content that has already gone out only allows fewer action options on it. The next question you may be wondering is, how do I get content on the planner? There are 2 primary ways to do that. One would be to go to the day and time that you want to add content to, and you can see if I hover over it, it shows this plus sign. If I select that and click message, a message box or a create post box appears. You can see in the bottom left, the date and time are already selected from where I had clicked on the planner, which saves the step. I will exit out of this and show you the other way, which is to go up under the writing utensil menu towards the upper right. And if I select that, you can see it's the same create post box, but in the bottom left, no date or time are selected yet. So if I want to schedule that post for a future time frame, I would need to select that. Once we have the create post message screen up, let's walk through an example of how to actually fill this out. First, under accounts, you would select the account that you want to post to. That may be Facebook or a Twitter account, etc. I'll click on this particular Facebook page. Then you would type your message here in the message box, or maybe even insert a link. I'll show an example of inserting a link. This is a link from the Mayo Clinic News Network. You can see, being that Mayo Clinic owns this domain, it's a mayoclinic.org domain, we have the ability to edit something here. Like if we didn't want it to show Rochester, Minnesota as an example, we can edit this down here, whereas we wouldn't have this option if it were a media hit like a CNN link or something like that. We can also select from the thumbnail options that were automatically brought over with this link. So if I want to use this one, I can leave this selected. And up here, I could type the post text, the intro text that I want. I also have the option to get rid of that altogether if I instead just want to add a photo uploaded from my desktop or somewhere where I have an approved photo to use. You can see you can also add video to a post. And then down below, being that this post is for Facebook, we have the option to add a preferred audience or to add audience restrictions. Audience restrictions is more restricted, where you're telling Facebook that only certain people can see this post, whereas preferred audience is more or less giving Facebook a suggestion for who you want to see the post. Going down to the properties section, you do need to select whether this is a proactive or reactive post. Most of the time, your posts are probably going to be proactive until you're doing comment monitoring, but for now, it's proactive. So if you usually select proactive, you can select to make that your default. You would just have to remember on other occasions to go and change it to reactive. Now, the URL shortener is a really important one because we need to be careful which one we select. We have bit.ly synced here. We also have our Mayo Clin shortened domain in here. Sprinklr has theirs in here as well, but we would not want to select that. So if we're looking to choose between the bit.ly or the Mayo Clin one, there's some specific rules around that. We want to select Mayo Clin whenever we can, but we're only allowed to do that for Mayo-owned domains, such as mayoclinic.org. If I go back up to the link example that I had pasted in, it's a newsnetwork.mayoclinic.org. So this one is a Mayo domain link. So we can use the Mayo Clin shortener. However, if this were a YouTube link or a CNN article or something like that, we cannot have it say Mayo Clin as the link shortener, so we would have to select bit.ly for those other ones. Then this tag section does not appear externally, but it's a way for you to categorize content for yourself. I know one colleague who decided to tag his posts that had one hashtag with one X, and if there were two hashtags up in his post, he would instead use the tag 2X. This can help in the reporting section, which we'll get to later. Down below, you can see there's an approval workflow option, which is generally not set up for most of your accounts. If you're interested in that, feel free to let me know. Down here, you can select when you want this post to go out or schedule the post and select, for example, if I want this to go out on Saturday, at what time, and I can click apply, and then you can see that fills in down below. I can preview the post, I can save it as a draft on the planner, or I can schedule it. So if I save it as a draft only, it won't go out, but I can schedule it, and then it will be scheduled to go out at that time. Or if I get rid of this altogether and I just want it to be posted right now, I can click post. The example I've been using has been a Facebook post, but if any of you have access to an Instagram account, you can see that once you select the Instagram account, there is an option to publish via mobile or direct publish. If you are publishing a photo, I recommend selecting direct publish. This is a new option available. If you choose to go via the mobile, you could start scheduling it via Sprinklr, but then you'd have to finish with multiple steps, both using the Sprinklr app and the Instagram app. So again, I recommend direct publishing for photo posts. If you do decide to use the publish via mobile selection, let me know, as there's a separate how-to for that. We've now gone through the planner and the publisher, or creating a post for the planner. Next, I'd like to go back to this 9-dot menu option and go to engagement. Once you go to the engagement dashboard, if you click the 3 horizontal line icon in the upper left, you can see the dashboards you have access to. I have created custom dashboards for each account that you are working on. We'll use this medical transport one as an example. It's a Facebook page. It is set up in a custom way, so all of your inbound comments and private messages will funnel into one inbox on the left-hand side. So you can see right now this one has one that has come into the inbox. It will show comments in the inbox. If there are any private messages, it would say private message or post, etc. If there's nothing that needs to happen to this post, you can simply archive it, which will move it from the inbox to the reviewed column. However, sometimes it may be a question or something that needs follow-up. If it's a swear word or something inappropriate that needs to be deleted, you can hover over the three-dot action menu and click delete. However, if you delete it, it will still show up in the inbox, which is what we want because we want to keep the audit record that this comment existed, but it will have a red notice on the top that says this post has been deleted. Then at that point, you could archive it because you would have taken care of what needed to happen, in that case, deleting it and then archiving it. If it's an example where there needs to be a reply, but you're not sure what this comment was about, you could click the View Conversation, which shows the drop-down of the initial post and then the dialogue that may be taking place. And if you no longer need to see that, you can click on Hide Conversation. If it's a post that needs a response, you can click the Reply button. You can see this screen looks a lot like the post message screen from the beginning. You would type in your content. In this case, the campaign would be reactive because you're replying to someone as opposed to proactive, but the URL shortener is the same situation, the tags, etc. However, one thing to note especially is the template responses. We have created a bunch of template responses that can be used as a basis for you to respond with. For example, one common one that we see used a lot is the diagnosis one. It says, unfortunately, we cannot diagnose conditions, provide second opinions, or make specific treatment recommendations, etc. You can edit this once it's ready to go out. However, you can select the scheduler option to select a particular time you want it to go out, and then you would click to schedule it, or you could save as a draft or publish it as is without having a specific time to go out, which would mean it would go out now. Most of the time for reactive messaging, people would probably either save it as a draft or post it live as opposed to scheduling it out. Finally, something else to note is that if one takes longer to respond to and you're still working on it, you can assign it to yourself so your colleagues know that you are working on it. Or sometimes people use this to assign to someone else who may be more familiar with the response to the particular question. Save. Again, once you're done with this, you can click Archive, which will move it over to the Reviewed column. The Reviewed column is a record of what used to be in the inbox but has already been taken care of. So the inbox is the first column, the Reviewed is the second column, and then on the Facebook dashboards, there's a Sent Post column, so they're the posts that you have sent out just to keep track of, and then Sent Private Messages. One final thing to note here is that you can select more than one message at a time if you hold down the Control or Command Shift, I think it is, depending on Windows or Mac. And you could then archive them at the same time if they were both in your inbox or you had a bunch to go through at the same time. Of note, macros are only used in the MCSMN environment. So those of you who use macros are probably working in the MCSM environment. They are not created for the non-MCSMN environment. Instead, this environment uses archiving to move the content from the inbox to the Reviewed column. Okay, we've now finished going over the planner, the publishing or creating a post, as well as the engagement dashboards. So if we go back to the 9-dot menu in the upper left and select reporting, that's the final section I want to go over with you. Now, before we go into this, I should say that I automatically create a custom report and have it sent on a monthly basis. This goes for all of the non-MCSMN accounts, all the people who manage those accounts. However, some people want to look into this themselves, so I'll show you how. If you go under this drop-down and go to Dashboards, Social Engagement, this section is what Sprinklr pre-created for people to use. It's not customized yet. There's a lot of customizations available within Sprinklr, but this is just a standard one that's pre-created. So if you go under social engagement, you can then click on Twitter or Facebook or whatever channel you're looking for metrics on. We'll do Facebook for this example. Then in the upper right hand area, you can see that there's already a filter set. Once you select that filter drop down, you'll want to select the appropriate account. Otherwise, you'll be looking at metrics for multiple accounts at the same time, possibly. So for now, the example that I'll use is the Children's Center Facebook page. Up in the upper middle is where you can select the date range. If I select this drop down, you can look at 1 week at a time, last year, or a custom range at the bottom. For simplicity, I'll just look at the last month of May. Under brand posts, the Children's Center Facebook page published 27 posts in the month of May, which was down 6.9% than the prior month, in which they published 29 posts. In the month of May, they received 209 engagements, which was up 7.7% than the prior month, which saw 194 engagements. If you're wondering what an engagement is, it is defined as reaction plus comment plus shares. If you're looking on Twitter, the vernacular is a little different, so shares are called retweets, but it's the same concept. Then you can see the engagements per post for the Children's Center account was 7.74 engagements, which was up 15.7% than the prior month, which was at 6.69. We already went over what this middle section means. Under account summary, you can see that they have 1.8 thousand followers, which is up 1.1% than the prior month. And you can see the amount of new followers they got this month compared to the prior month. I won't go over everything in this report as there are a lot of widgets that are available to look at, but I'll highlight a few of them. Some of them have an option to change the aggregation. So you can see right now it's on a daily view, but I could change this to look at a week at a time. In this case, the blue is looking at the number of brand posts published in comparison to engagements. If there's a spike in engagements, when the brand post went down, I may want to look into that further. In this right-hand section, it shows the top 3 posts by engagements during that month. And some of these widgets, it's important to note that they are cumulative. So, for example, if we look at the engagement reach by media type, it may look like link posts perform the best, but we need to take into account that there were more link posts published, so they probably should have received more reach and more total engagements. If you hover over these dots, you can see some of those details. Scrolling down, the message scorecard section is a valuable section for many people. You can see the individual posts during that month, the number of engagements, which again is defined as reactions plus comments plus shares. You can look at the post reach and estimated clicks, but estimated clicks only shows a number if the post went out through Sprinklr and the link was shortened through Sprinklr, such as using the bit.ly or Mayo shortener. You can rearrange to look at the posts by total engagements if you want, or the posts that had the most amount of click-throughs, and you can look at them accordingly. Facebook is an interesting one because you can see more demographic data available to you than Twitter, for example. We can see our fan breakdown by demographics, the fan breakdown by cities and countries, etc. Feel free to let me know if you have any unique cases that you want to look at reporting for, as there are a lot of customizations available, but this is just the standard report that comes pre-built with Sprinklr. I wanted to come back to what I said at the beginning about using outbound tags. If you go up under the 3 horizontal line menu drop down and go down to dashboards, outbound tag, you can then narrow by the appropriate date range. I'll click the filter drop down in the upper right, and you'd want to select the appropriate account and then the appropriate tags. I already selected the 1x and 2x, which I had used as an example earlier. It is optional to use tags like this, but the benefit is that you could scroll down and compare how your posts with 1 hashtag versus how your posts with 2 hashtags performed, if that's what you were comparing. But you may also choose to compare other variables. A recent addition to Sprinklr has also been the ability to have tabs across the top like this that are maintained. So we could click back to go to the planner or to go to the engagement dashboards, or now we're in the reporting section. And if you don't want these tabs open anymore, you can simply exit out of them, such as removing the engagement dashboard there, the planner, and now I only have one tab open. Hopefully this tutorial has been helpful. Feel free to let me know if you have questions. Thank you.